Fans Forum chat box is open, ready, set, go.
Okay, let's go here to the one Mr. Smith. He goes, I love the Aaron Rodgers dynamic. If he's got anything left in the tank, he'll leave it on the field. If the haters can put it aside, he'll take the Steelers a long way. I love it.
I concur. I do think he's got gas left in the tank. I will be interested to see the mental adjustment it will take. Playing for Mike Tomlin, it's a different structure in Pittsburgh, but they got great defense, and obviously they run the football a lot, and they got really good tight ends, and now they got DK Metcalf, and I tend to think that AR is better than anybody they've had there since Ben Roethlisberger, and that's a long time ago, so I'm going to be fascinated by that.
I still think this is going to be like very dramatic. I think when the games are on TV, I think the cameramen are going to have a field day, just getting all the reactions on the faces of Tomlin and of Rodgers. But yeah, he can still play, but he's fully recovered from that Achilles, right?
Yes.
So, okay, then we'll give it a shot. We'll see how it goes, but it's really only a 1-year deal, right?
Well, 1 year, but who knows if it evolves into a second year. If he has a good year, I think he wants to go out on his own terms, but he is going to be there next week for the veterans portion of the OTAs. The mandatory portions begin. He won't be vacationing in Greece or Egypt or wherever the hell he went last year with the Jets. We move on.
We'll follow up on that. What's the story on Kirk Cousins now? Where is he going to land?
They're stuck in Atlanta. I was thinking about that driving over. Atlanta gave them a mega contract, and then there was a roster bonus, and they paid that. There's a total outlay of $37 million, and he's not the starter. But at the end of the day, Michael Penix will get the opportunity to start, but is he productive? Does he stay healthy? What happens if he goes down? Maybe you're lucky you still got Kirk Cousins there, even though it's an expensive contract. Because if he had gone to Pittsburgh, and that was a rumor a week ago, and this whole Kirk Cousins rumor might have triggered Aaron Rodgers to say, I'm in. I'm going to the 412 area code. Maybe the Cousins thing is what led Rodgers to make this announcement at this point. But Cousins is the backup for the time being, just to see if Michael Penix can get the job done. He played pretty well at the end of a lost season for Atlanta last year.
Well, I mean, if Cousins hypothetically went to Pittsburgh, I mean, Aaron Rodgers would have nowhere to go, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. So it's no wonder that he took the job. He made the phone call.
Well, he took it, I think, when the story got out. It was a week ago today. I think we were talking about this hot rumor. Pittsburgh has talked to Atlanta. Okay, next one.
Okay, let's keep moving here. We'll go to Douglas. He goes, hey, what are the odds that the Ducks move to Los Angeles and play in the Clippers arena?
No, I don't think so. The Ducks, the Samuele family is really entrenched in Orange County in terms of business activity. I don't know if you've been up around where the Honda Center, the old pond is. They've taken a lot of the parking lots, the Samuele family, and they're building an entertainment district out. Restaurants, buildings in that part of that parking lot. They're really making that area more than just an arena for the NHL team. Samuelis are really ahead of the curve. And the most interesting thing, across the street, Artie Moreno's got nothing accomplished in terms of building out anything around Angel Stadium. And yet the Samuelis have been active. So, no, they're not. The Ducks would never move. And again, that's because of Orange County ownership. They have a marketing campaign that's really cool. It says, we are Orange County. Not, in reference, we are not the Los Angeles Angels of Anaheim. We are Orange County.
Yeah, that's great. That's terrific.
Really cool.
Wasn't it Orange Country?
Orange Country.
Yeah. And I mean, if they were to go up to LA, I mean, it would just kill all of that. It'd be like it was a lie, the whole Orange Country.
Now, Samuelis are unbelievably philanthropic in Orange County. Doug, thank you for the note. Go ahead, John. Next one.
Okay, let's go here to Joe. And Joe always loves responding in email to your best 15 in one man's opinion. Joe says, hey, what's the latest on the A's, Rays, and White Sox future stadium prospects?
Well, Tampa Bay, St. Petersburg has begun the renovation of the hurricane-damaged Tropicana Field. The Rays are playing outdoors right now at the Yankee Spring Training Stadium. It's a nice little minor league stadium, but it's minor league and it's open air and it's outdoors. The Rays will be back in Tropicana Field, which will be done, and there'll be 2 more years left on that contract. And in terms of what Tampa Bay does going forward, starting in 2028, there's no financing at this point for a new baseball stadium on the other side of the bridge. The deal they had in effect just just kind of fell apart. The Athletics are obviously in Sacramento for 3 years. I guess I'm a little bit surprised. I mean, here we are, John, in June. They have not broken ground in Vegas yet. So they're talking at least 3 years in Sacramento. But don't you have to start to actually turn the dirt and actually put the steel in the ground to get this thing built? So that's that situation. The whole infrastructure in Chicago is weird. They got the old Comiskey Park. The Bears are looking to build a new stadium. Illinois, the state of Illinois, Chicago, we're not paying for it. So that whole thing is stalled. It is interesting as a story that just broke probably late last night. Jerry Reinsdorf, who owns the White Sox, or as I call them, the Blight Sox, Jerry Reinsdorf has signed an option clause to give one of the minority holders a 3-year window in which they can actually purchase majority control of the White Sox, not immediately. I think it might be in 2027, 28, or 29. There's an option for one of the big minority holders to step forward and buy the bulk of the franchise from Jerry Reinsdorf. Jerry Reinsdorf is not a young man by any stretch. So there will be new ownership coming, I think, with the White Sox probably in the next year and a half or so. Good questions, Joe. Thank you for following.
Yeah, and it's interesting because isn't there a new Comiskey Park? And
That's
how new is it? It's like 20 years old,
probably
maybe?
at least, yeah. And needs renovation, but everything needs renovation. Nobody's got any money.
Yeah, and then by the way, when you were talking about the A's earlier today about the season ticket sales and everything, I remember hearing a story about a guy that he went and bought 4 season tickets. He lived in Sacramento. He was all excited, and he spent like, I don't know, over $20,000 for these 4 seats. And the seats have like, I think a suggested, the ticket price of like $80 or $90. He can't even sell them on the open market for like 40 because like when you go to those ticket exchange places, no one's interested in them. So the whole thing in Sacramento is just turned into a dump. But in Vegas, it's still not really a done deal, right? I mean, as far as the stadium goes,
I think the financing's in place, but I want to, I don't know if it's tied up with EPA stuff, Environmental Protection Agency. I don't understand why they've not broken ground on this yet. Although Rob Manfred's of the opinion they're going to be there. That stadium will get built, but they're not moving any dirt yet. And these things don't get built in 15 minutes.
Do you think they could play at Allegiant Stadium? Could that work?
No, that the dimensions to play indoors in a football stadium, no. And I don't think they want to play outdoors in the AAA minor league Las Vegas.
Well, remember when the Dodgers played at the Coliseum?
Yeah.
And they had that big net in left field.
Screen.
Yeah.
And then Wally Moon would hit the moonshots over the short left field fence. I mean, that was a weird construction, but that was only for a short period of time. Okay, Joe, thank you.
Okay, let's keep on moving here, and we'll go to this is a great one here. This is from XX Revolution, and he says, "Hey, I got my college diploma today."
Yay!
That's cool.
Yeah, that's cool.
This is graduation time. Okay, let's keep on moving here, and we'll go to Gary. And Gary says, "Hey, Padres gritty wins despite the loss last night shows we can play up to our potential against a good team. Fernando's body language is because he wants to be hitting better. Doesn't feel like dancing right now.
He doesn't look right. John and I talked about this on the Monday podcast. I don't know. He's not hit since he got hit on the left forearm. We're going to wake up and find out that he might have had some type of minor fracture there, and he continues to play. He just doesn't look right at home plate, and his mechanics, and now his stride, and his front foot, it just seems so out of sync. But he's continued to ball in right field. He's catching everything. It's just weird. I mean, the fact he hit 184 for the entire month of May. That is, I think it's the worst month of his entire career. And this guy, we were using the word MVP.
Oh yeah,
in relation to El Nino from opening day on until he got plunked May 2nd. So only time will tell us to what's fact or what's fiction with him. But he continues to play, so it may not be a major injury, but he sure doesn't look correct to me at home plate.
Yeah, he doesn't. And like he tops the ball all the time and gets these choppers to the left side, so clearly the mechanics aren't right. In the podcast you did with the coach, he said he thinks Tatis wants to play shortstop, didn't he? Did he say that? What's your take on that opinion?
I've never heard that. He's really good. He's a platinum Gold Glove guy in right field. And you got a shortstop in Bogey. And Bogey's got a long-term contract. So I don't see that transaction taking place. And I've not heard that publicly. And coach has got his own contacts, so maybe there's some truth there, but I've never heard that from Fernando at all.
Now, one funny thing about last night's game is when the Padres went up 5-0, and my buddy in San Francisco said, "Oh, the game's over." He goes, "We haven't scored more than 4 runs in like 3 weeks." And then sure enough, they end up scoring 6. And
a bunch of walks, and Jason Adams has been overused, like Suarez has been overused, like Morion has been overused, and it's the nature of getting only 5 innings from your starting pitching. I mean, Pivetta was throwing BBs. I mean, Pivetta struck out all those guys, and he retired 13 in a row, I think, at one point.
Mm-hmm.
And all of a sudden, he couldn't get anybody out. Exactly. It was just, his whole game went away. The Giants, let's be realistic here. This is one of the really anemic teams in baseball, John. They're averaging 2.2 runs per game. And they just have no batting order at all. They made 6 roster changes yesterday, trying to change them. Buster Posey, it's not that he's guessed wrong on players. He's got some guys who just are not playing real well. Okay, moving on. Talking about coach, here's another comment from Casey. He goes, "Hacksaw, first off, you were awesome yesterday on Coach Quintero podcast. Now, who do you think gets the 2 expansion teams in Major League Baseball?" Well, there's been a lot of dialogue there, but baseball's not ready to move on this at all. Baseball still has to solve the stadium crisis in Tampa. According to Rob Manfred, the stadium situation will be resolved in Las Vegas. They do have a new TV contract that they got to negotiate, and they got to find another network partner since ESPN is walking away from it at the end of this year. 2028, they're going to try to change the entire TV structure. So there's a lot of things going on there from a business standpoint before they consider expansion. To spin back to your question, I keep hearing Nashville all the time. Portland has put together a consortium of baseball people, and they have the land right on the Willamette River to build. But is Portland too small a market? Nashville could be a regional market. Charlotte has been out there, and Charlotte would be, I tend to think, a pretty good regional Dixie market. Montreal is out there, but for some reason, baseball does not seem interested in going back to Canada at this point. I tend to think everything has changed economically in the province of Quebec. I think Montreal would be big time, but so those are the ones off the top. But I don't think it's going to happen in the next 15 minutes.
Well, if all the professional sports, which is most likely to expand? NFL, NBA, MLB?
Well, the rumor about the NBA to Seattle, a lot of legs on that. Rumor about the NHL, there's talk Atlanta and Houston more than anything else. A little bit of talk about the new arena in Quebec City. But Gary Bettman, Bill Daley, they're in the middle of trying to do an extension right now in the collective bargaining agreement. So again, I don't think that's going to happen real quick either.
Okay. All right. Let's keep moving here. Let's go to our good friend John. And he says, "Hey, last night's game between the Oilers and Panthers was an epic battle. How can one not be riveted by that game? As for the Padres, like every other team, they need some pitching and another bat. Will they make a deal with Red Sox? And will they give Trevor Bauer a call? He just got poor taste in women. Hopefully he doesn't know any bookies."
John obviously has opinions on virtually everything that I write about, which is okay. The situation with the Padres and the Red Sox, I was told that it's hit a wall. Boston needs immediate players. If they're moving Duran, John, they need immediate players. And those immediate players have to be, I was told, Luis Arraez. I can't see the Padres doing that. Would they move Duran to rent an established starter? But that starter. But also, by the same token, only counts as one win. They got to win again. Now, if it goes up 2-0 Oilers, if they can win on Friday, and then the pressure is really going to be on the Florida Panthers. But best of 7 is really great. Callum, you like my jersey, my hoodie? Okay.
I'm killing you here right now.
You're killing. John keeps running into the equipment and knocking us off the air. If it's not John, it's our mascot, the beagle sniffer running into things too. We apologize for the technical flaws.
Let's go to some social media here, and let's see who we got on our list. And okay, let's go here to a comment from Indelicious93. He says, "Hey, every time you talk Padres, we end up getting better. Keep hating on us. You're helping us out. One game behind first in the division."
Keep hating on you. My goodness. I just talked about the greatness of the discovery of Gavin Sheets. I talk about the Bulldogs that they got in their starting rotation, but I'm also dealing with the reality. You got a hole in left field. You got a hole behind home plate. They don't have assets to use as a trade. And, obviously they've been shut off probably by what I was told in Boston when Boston said, we want to rise. Well, you're not going to do that. I'm not hating. I'm just giving you the facts. Why does it seem like I'm hating? I don't understand the rationale of Padre fan.
They're fair weather, and they don't like any criticism. And, you're the one that tells it like it is, like our old buddy Howard Cosell. And they just think you're like, you always had that one video where it's like, Padres, you've got a problem, and people still repeat that in the Instagram comments. And so they think that you're a Debbie Downer, a hater, you're trying to drag. And some people think because you hate the Padres so much, this is what they think, that you are therefore a Dodger lover or a secret Dodger lover.
How can that be? Because I sat there and said the Dodger way doesn't work anymore. And that led to a fuselage of all kinds of people critical of my criticism of the Dodger way doesn't work anymore. So am I a Dodger hater or a Padre hater? Or am I just dealing with the topics on the table and the facts as we have them? I did a commentary about the Dodger way doesn't work anymore because of the plethora of injuries, all these 17 guys on the disabled list and all the surgeries. But if I do a commentary that's up there 3 months ago and people are sampling it now and say, well, you're hating on the Dodgers are in first place. Well, the commentary was based on the facts we had 3 months ago. No?
Well, yeah, there is some of that where it's dated. But I think in the end, a lot of podcasters are a lot of them are like big fans of a team, right? And so you are a longtime professional sports journalist.
Not everybody buys that.
Well, you're gonna lay it out, and you're gonna give them the good, the bad, and the ugly, and I think a lot of people just don't want to hear that. So, some people, I guess, like the Homer podcast, the Homer sports talk show guy, but that's never been you.
Well, but you root for the home team, but if there's glitches with the home team, you do have to talk. You do have to be honest, don't you?
Of course, you have to be honest.
Okay.
Yeah. So I know I'm with you on this. I think some of these people they're just reacting on social media.
Indo, hey, thanks for participating. We'll try to serve you better, but we'll still be honest. Go ahead, John.
Okay. Let's go here to talk a little NHL from the real Mr. Nobody. Edmonton needs a goalie.
Well, Stuart Skinner's streaky. There's no doubt about that. He's really streaky. But boy, when he's on, he's unbelievable. And if you watch closely, the saves he made in traffic in that third period when they had to stay in the game, and then what he did in overtime, I mean, he is red hot. And that's a much better Edmonton team today than it was a year ago today, where Skinner could be really streaky. They are much deeper on the defense. They got all 3 and 4 lines that they rotate through there that either check the hell out of you, will hit you, or can score goals, will set up other guys to score goals. It's a really complete team. And Chris Knobloch, the coach, is just what a phenomenal couple of years he's had in terms of coming in and actually taking the thing to the next level. So I freak out because I think Skinner sometimes around the net is kind of sloppy and pucks get loose and suddenly they're in the goal behind him. But boy, he's made some monstrously big saves, much like Bobrovsky did last night for a large chunk of that game too.
Now, on an NHL roster, number one, how many goalies do they keep on a roster?
2 active roster, and there's always a third in emergency.
That was my next question, is that there was an emergency guy. So that makes sense.
Yeah, usually they bring up the young guy from the American Hockey League, and he won't dress. He'll sit there, and he'll be the third guy. And obviously he'll practice on the off days. He does heavy-duty practice just to be in game shape in case somebody gets hurt.
But they don't bring like a defenseman to put on all the pads. Like, in baseball, the emergency catcher is like an outfielder or something.
Well, but you dress, I think it's 23 for a game.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So you've got 4 lines, which is 12 right there. You have 3 pairs of defensemen, which is at least 6, sometimes 4 pairs, which is 8, and then 2 goaltenders. And then Now, what they do is Edmonton, or everybody in the playoffs, you bring up some of your top minor leaguers, and they call them black aces, and they will practice on the off days, the full go. Their emergency. If Edmonton loses Evander Kane and gets hurt, they'll take one of the young guys that they brought up from their American Hockey League team, and he'll plug in at the back of the roster, and he'll get the chance to play. So everybody's got, during the Stanley Cup, everybody's probably got 5 to 8 black aces, the young guys who will practice and participate.
That's actually cool because even if they don't play, it's a great learning experience for these young men to be in a pressure-packed environment like that they hope to be playing in one day. So no one loses.
Oh, take notes. Exactly. No, I wholeheartedly agree. Okay, we move on. Thanks, Rome.
Okay, let's talk about the Angels. This is from Mike Berg. The Angels are a disaster, and why Trout has stayed with them defies common sense. The dude literally gave up his career. Thank God Shohei left that dumpster fire when he did.
It is surprising. It's surprising that in the era they had Trout and Ohtani, and then obviously the arrival of Rendon, and Rendon never had a history of injuries in Washington, and he got here and he's just been hurt nonstop. And that whole thing is blown up in their face. And then they lost Ohtani. But Trout's loyal. Trout's special. I think he really loves Orange County, does a lot of charitable stuff. He just is elected, this is where I want to be, and I like the lifestyle, etc. And hey, at the end of the day, where the hell would you want to live in the winter? Anaheim or New Jersey? So he's a unique guy. Hey, very honest, and I dealt with him just peripherally, but I respect him. Can't stay healthy, got to stay on the field. And I think the other thing for the reality for the Angel fan, it's really hard to rebuild. They didn't get real bad real quick. This thing has been eroding, and now you try to fix it. And their everyday lineup is really, really young. It's hard. And so you rent veterans, and, they get Jorge Soler comes in, hits home runs. Now he's hurt, and they just can't keep these guys on the field. I do think there's a foundation there. It takes forever to build pitching. They just I don't think they have enough pitching. Maybe there's more young pitching coming, but they're not going to lose 99 this year, but hell, they could lose 85, that's not much progress.
Well, I think you can make a good argument that the Angels have had a lot of bad luck.
Oh, yeah.
But even with all that bad luck, they've also made a lot of terrible decisions.
Oh.
And so it's just been a firestorm of everything.
Yeah, everything has gone wrong that could go wrong, including the tragic death of 2 of their frontline pitchers, and then just the siege of injuries, and then obviously mistakes, and the mistakes that Arte Moreno made, giving the volume of money he gave to a drug-troubled Josh Hamilton. Say, how is that humanly possible? You'd ever think that this could ever work out, considering that Josh had all these problems, all these other places. So the intention was good to try to put a winner on the field. The execution has failed really badly. And then once you go down the drain to build it back up, it takes forever.
Well, speaking as a Padre fan, I can attest to that.
Yeah, but the Padres can't remember the Padres ever losing 99 in a season and just being totally incompetent. They've had disappointing seasons, but not that gross.
They must have lost 100 games in a season, haven't
Probably,
they?
Yeah, maybe once or twice.
Like, I mean, if you were to go back into the 70s, the early 70s, of when they were brand spanking new, and then even in the after the 98 World Series, they purged the roster, and those early 2000s teams,
90 lost seasons.
Yeah.
Okay, we move on.
Okay, let's talk a little NFL here, and this is with Tistic, and he says, "Hey, we're talking about Travis Hunter. He goes, some receivers are refined coming out of college. Pat Bryant from Illinois, drafted 3rd round by the Broncos, is a great example. But he ran a 4.61 40 at the combine. So there's that. Hugely different draft values. It'll be fun watching and comparing this year's rookie offensive playmakers.
I think the fascinating part about the draft is you go to the combine and everybody gets enthralled with the guy that runs 4.32. You say, holy cow. But is that 4.32 because he's a track guy and a sprinter? Can he hold on to the football? Can he run precise routes, etc.? That's only coaching, and time will only tell there. Then there's the other guy that comes in and runs a 4.59, and you say, well, that's not fast enough. Well, but if he's a 4.59 guy that runs precise routes, has great hands, and is tough, he's an inside slot guy. and those guys have great value. Give me a name. Julian Edelman.
Oh yeah, yeah,
Those type of guys.
yeah.
So you find all these components in guys that play different roles with your team. Big tight ends. These guys blast block, they're H-backs, they're wham blockers. Those guys are good for teams that run the football. You got tight ends go down the seam, the George Kittles of the world, who are great. You can't cover because they got an extra gear and they're big and they got good hands. So there's all types of different components of the player you're drafting. Your left tackle could be a big stud aircraft carrier with reach and all that, with great feet, or you can get a guard who's small and undersized, but it's a former NCAA wrestling champion who knows leverage, and he'll block you into the backfield. So I mean, it's fascinating from a player personnel standpoint. I had conversations with Bethard and Billy Devaney, who was one of his lead scouts when I was a voice of the Chargers. Just fascinating to hear how this works, how this fits within the scheme of what you're going to run. And you need 3 different types of tight ends, or you have all these different types of wide receivers who have different strengths, etc. And then, by the way, coach them up.
You remember when the 49ers had Ronaldo Nehemiah?
Yeah, track star.
And he didn't work out.
No, but he for a couple of years he caught passes, but it was just the bloody threat. Willie Gault, the Olympic sprinter with the Raiders and the Bears. Holy cow. I mean, you come to the line of scrimmage and those corners and safeties were just scared out of their shoes that this guy was going to blow by them. But sometimes he dropped the ball. Sometimes he wouldn't run the price route. And so it's interesting just to see the philosophy of player personnel acquisition. Okay.
Keep on moving here. Here we go. Let's talk more Padres. This is from Dago Baby 760. He goes, talking about you here, always talking negative about the Padres. They're going to be okay. They're not the only team with issues right now. And oh, by the way, they won last night with Kolek on the mound. Just stick to glazing the Dodgers.
Okay, that's fine. Just over to the left, there's a lot of hate. But no, my philosophy is these are the issues we're talking about today. We're going to sit here and we're going to talk about it realistically. They're playing 22 road games in the month of June. Damn, that's hard. They're playing all these road games, and they're starting to play real people. And by the way, they got 2.5 starting pitchers right now because of injuries. Now, you can sit there, and it's great that Stephen Kolek had some quality starts. But start to start over a month's time, you're going to get more good outings or bad outings. We can talk Randy Vasquez. Guy competes. But the thing about him, we've seen this work of art. He has bad innings, and he can't survive bad innings. So when he goes out there, you're holding your breath and saying, that's great. He got through the batting order the first time around. What the hell's going to happen in the 4th inning? And it happens to him. So I'm just presenting the facts as I view them. Am I hating? No. I'm just telling you what's going on. I would much rather be sitting here having these guys with a record of 42-12, or like the Detroit Tigers, whom I said were going to be really good and have the best record in the American League. But I'm just dealing with the facts that there are right now.
I remember earlier in the season, you were like, oh, Padres off to a great start, but they haven't played anybody. You haven't played the Dodgers yet. You're cleaning up on all these, low-end teams.
Well, they were 14-3 and then went 18-21.
Yeah. Well, you said the same thing about the Chargers last year, too.
Mm-hmm. And what happened? They got punched in the mouth by 7 different teams that beat their brains out the second half of the season. Did they have a good year with Harbaugh? Sure did. But when they played real people rather than the Carolina Panthers, they got smoked.
Told you so. The people on Instagram, they're always laughing about you because they're saying, oh, Hacksaw just loves to be able to say, I told you so.
You just love to pile on me, don't you?
It's great. Okay. We got a couple more here if we can fit them in. Are we doing on time? Okay.
We're going awful long. I'm not going to say anything negative that you screwed up the cameras on this podcast.
No, I did screw up the
cameras.
Because you
keep bumping into the equipment. My
God. Well, let's just finish this off with our good friend here, Pete Rose. This is from Surf City Bill, and he says, hey, waiting for the player to die to become eligible for the Hall of Fame is just vindictive, low-class way of punishing the player.
Well, Rob Manfred said this past week, though. He said Pete Rose signed the document. He knew it was a lifetime suspension. He knew. So, therefore, he was not going to be eligible for the ballot. Then the Baseball Hall of Fame about a year and a half later in Cooperstown, went to the commissioner's office and said, we're going to change our rule about the ballot. We're going to invoke that if anybody's on the ineligible list, they can't be on the ballot. So that included Pete, that included Joe Jackson, it included anybody and everybody who had bet. So finally, the commissioner, after 3 years of evaluation, said, we'll end the ineligible status of Pete Rose in death. He's now eligible. But the Hall of Fame has not changed its vote. They're now sending it to the Classic Era Committee. And the Classic Era Committee, I think it's 12 people. The Classic Era Committee will say, because they're the one that control who goes on the ballot, they will say, okay, he is now eligible to go on the ballot. But the problem is 10 of the 12 members are former players who are Hall of Famers, and a whole bunch of them were anti-Pete Rose guys. So are they still going to be vindictive in death or allow Pete to actually be placed on the ballot? And I'm just curious, this is a sidebar story, because outside of black and white grainy videos or what we've read or the movie 8 Men Out, nobody really has seen nor paid very much attention to Shoeless Joe Jackson. Shoeless Joe is eligible also, like Pete Rose, to be on the ballot. Is that Classic Committee going to put him on a ballot with Pete Rose? What do you think?
Well, first of all, I think Surf City Bill is right. It is vindictive and it is low class. I mean, especially it's hypocritical now, especially now the MLB is partnering with FanDuel and, they're sharing odds and everything else in the pregame show. I think it's just insane. But, I think more people probably know more about Shoeless Joe Jackson these days from Field of Dreams than they do from anything.
Yeah, concur. And if you just go back and just Google Shoeless Joe Jackson's career stats, you will be awed at his record. Now, again, I grant you, this goes back to the early 1900s. I think he only played 9 years, maybe 10 years. Started with the Cleveland Indians, went from 1909 through 1919, and then they all got expelled from baseball. His statistics are just staggering. At the end of the day, we'll also get into this argument about, well, who the hell else is in the Hall of Fame? You got drunks, you got racists, you got womenizers. Mm-hmm. They're in the hall. Should not Pete be allowed to be in the hall? I mean, I'm talking about Ty Cobb and Babe Ruth, and I'm talking about Hack Wilson. I mean, really, and Cap Anson, some really questionable character citizens. They're in the hall because they were great players, but none of those guys bet on baseball, which goes to the integrity of the game question. Those guys might have been bums as people, how they acted, how they treated people, what they did with people, but they didn't bet on the games that could impact the integrity of the game. I don't know. Does that make sense?
If they cared about the integrity of the game, they wouldn't partner with FanDuel, and all these betting sites. So it's hypocrisy. It's similar in some weird way to how we were talking about how the amateur versus the pro status. There's this romantic version of romantic fascination with amateurs. But in this particular case, there's this, the beauty of the game, the pristine of the game, which I get it. But if you're going to go jump in bed with gamblers and take a ton of revenue, I mean, one of those gambling sites is running, this took the place of Bally Sports, right? Mm-hmm. And it's doing the regional sports broadcast.
FanDuel took over the broadcast when Bally went into bankruptcy.
Yeah. So I don't think Major League Baseball has a leg to stand on any of this. I think they just got to let them all in and just tell the full story. And it is vindictive and it's low class. And it's like, come on, man. This is like a grudge mode, like an Old Testament kind of a grudge mode. It doesn't need to be that way.
I'm not going to argue with you anymore because we've reached the limit and I don't want you to dislike me before I leave. That's another discussion for another day. Hey, listen, we hope you have enjoyed this, even though I can't get John to stop running into the cameras when he walks around the studio, stumbling and bumbling. But we hope you've enjoyed this. This is fascinating what we've done. And again, we're saluting you because we just went through the 8,000 mark in subscribers just on the YouTube channel. It's really cool. Want you to tell everybody what we do Mondays and Thursdays at 1:30. Give us a thumbs up. Find that button and hit thumbs up. Give us a 5-star rating. It really helps us immensely. This podcast brought to you by Dixieline Lumber and Home Centers, 9 locations to serve you in San Diego. Fix it, build it. We guarantee you will enjoy. Go to Dixieline.com. See all the things that they have to offer. John, quit bumping into things. Have yourself a great sports weekend. We'll see you Monday at 1:30.
Looking forward to it, and we're going to have a clean broadcast on Monday.
Thanks for being with us. You have yourself a great sports weekend, too. Thanks for being part of Hacksaw's Headlines.
Join us again for Hacksaw's Headlines on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter. And find the audio version on your favorite podcast apps.
Touchdown, San Diego!
For more content, go to LeeHacksawHamilton.com.